It was one of those summer days in downtown LA where the sun seemed to burn right through your skin, the kind of heat that makes even millionaires roll their eyes and sigh from the backseat of a tinted Rolls-Royce. The pavement shimmered like a mirage, and life was just buzzing, cars honking, crowds shuffling, music playing somewhere in the background. But amid all the noise and rush, something strange happened, something the richest man in that city never saw coming. He had it all: power, money, respect, the kind of man you see stepping out of a black Escalade with two assistants trailing behind. Everyone wanted a piece of him. Everyone wanted to be him. But that day, in a moment that barely lasted 60 seconds, it wasn't a business deal, a luxury watch, or a Forbes interview that stopped him in his tracks. It was a girl he'd never seen before. A girl selling bottled water for $1 on a dusty corner. And what she said to him, no one else ever dared to say. What happened next? You'll find out. But first, let me tell you why you're here, because you, just like him, believe that maybe life isn't always about what's in the bank. Sometimes, the most unexpected people shake us awake. And by the end of this video, you'll know why that girl didn't just sell water. She sold a moment that would change his entire life. Now, I wanted to pause for just 1 second and really lean into this story, because what you're about to experience isn't just another viral video or heartwarming tale that leaves you smiling and moving on. This is something deeper, something that touches a nerve we all try to ignore. How many times do we pass by people on the street without thinking twice? How many times have we missed our own moments, lost in our phones, running from one meeting to the next? But what if, and this is important, what if one of those people wasn't just a stranger, but a messenger, someone meant to cross your path for a reason? That's exactly what happened to Cole Matthews, the self-made tech billionaire, a man who built his empire out of code, hustle, and ruthless ambition. A man who believed emotions were liabilities and vulnerability was for the weak. Until he met her. Until a girl with dusty sneakers, a tray of warm bottles, and a sign that read, "Water for Hope," looked him dead in the eyes and changed everything. If you're someone who's tired of the usual highlight reels, the filtered success stories, the fake-it-till-you-make-it nonsense, then you're in the right place. Because in this story, you're not just a viewer, you're a witness to something real. And trust me, you're going to want to stay until the very last second, because what's waiting at the end is the answer you didn't even know you needed. And yes, I promise, by the time this video ends, you'll understand exactly what happened between that powerful businessman and that girl on the corner. You'll see why the world stopped for both of them. And you'll see how a moment that looked like nothing to everyone else became everything to them. So don't just scroll. Don't click away. This story is for you. Let's be honest, we all chase something, right? Whether it's success, love, stability, freedom, or just some kind of meaning in a world that often feels disconnected. That's what made Cole's story so shocking. Because from the outside, he had it all. You Google him and see the headlines: youngest CEO to ring the Nasdaq bell, Silicon Valley's untouchable genius, net worth $2.7 billion and rising. He had the mansion in Bel Air, the private jet, the watch that costs more than some people's homes. But he didn't have peace. He didn't have purpose. Not really. And maybe that's what made him stop that day. Something deep inside him recognized that the girl holding that water bottle had more clarity than he did. And maybe, just maybe, that scared him more than he'd admit. Now, let me bring you closer into her world. Her name was Ava. No last name. Just Ava. That's what the cardboard sign said. Her face was smudged with sweat and sun. She wasn't shouting or begging. She wasn't doing any tricks or trying to guilt people into buying her water. She just stood there, still, quiet, holding out bottles to anyone who'd meet her eyes. Most people didn't. Most people walked past. Some even laughed. But she kept going, hour after hour, day after day. And there was something about her presence, something that made people feel like she knew something they didn't. Like she had seen a version of life the rest of us forgot existed. And that's what made Cole look twice. That's what pulled him out of his bubble, his schedule, his self-importance. Even if just for a second. That second was all it took. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where time seemed to stop? where all the background noise fades and suddenly it's just you and another person, locked into something unspoken but real. That's what happened when Cole's eyes met Ava's. And she didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She looked at him like she knew him, like she saw right through the suit, the sunglasses, the headlines. And instead of selling him water, she offered him a truth. A question. One that would haunt him for weeks. One that would make him return to that same street corner again and again, looking for the girl who never once asked for pity, money, or attention. And the wildest part? She was hiding something that could destroy everything he thought he knew about himself. Now here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't just a random encounter. Not even close. Because what Cole didn't know was that Ava wasn't just out there to survive. She was on a mission. A silent one. And she chose him. That's right. Out of the thousands of people she could have approached, she picked him.
Why?
That's the mystery you're here to uncover. And believe me, when you learn the truth behind her water bottles, her strange past, and her connection to one of Cole's deepest secrets, it's going to hit you in the gut. You'll realize this wasn't just fate. It was a setup. A setup with a twist that no one, not even Cole, could have seen coming. But before we go any further, I want you to do something. Think about the last time someone unexpected made you feel seen. Really seen. Not for your job, your clothes, your profile pic, but for the messy, complicated, beautifully flawed human you are. That feeling? That's what this story is about. And if you've ever felt invisible, underestimated, or forgotten, Ava's journey is your journey too. Because what she teaches Cole isn't something you can learn in a boardroom or buy with a black card. It's something raw, something real. And it's the reason he ends up risking his entire empire just to talk to her one more time. So now you're probably wondering, what did she say? What was that one line, that moment, that made this powerful man turn his car around and walk back to her, completely alone, for the first time in years? That's the part one can't tell you yet. Not here. Because to truly understand it, you have to see everything else first. You have to feel the build-up, the tension, the slow unraveling of a man who thought he had control over every part of his life, until one girl with nothing to her name showed him the one thing he was missing all along. And just when you think you've got it all figured out, that's when it happens. That's when Ava disappears. No trace. No goodbye. Just gone. And that's when Cole, the man who never chased anyone in his life, begins a desperate search not for profit, not for press, but for a girl he barely knew, because something about her refused to let go of him. Something about her had the power to undo him. And what he finds on that journey will change everything. But that's just the beginning. Because the real twist? It's not about who she is. It's about who she was to him, long before they ever met on that hot summer street. And when that secret comes out, trust me, it'll leave you breathless. So stay right where you are. Because the story you're about to hear next, that's where it all explodes. Cole Matthews wasn't born with a silver spoon, but you'd never know it from the way he moved through the world now. Private jets, 5-star dinners, Forbes covers, and a team of lawyers and publicists who kept every part of his life spotless. Behind his sunglasses and tailored suits, he wore the kind of confidence that made investors lean in and rivals stay out of his way. He was always 2 steps ahead, always calculating, always winning. But if you looked closely, you'd notice something missing in his eyes, that little flicker of joy, of spontaneity, of peace. It had been gone for years. Most people didn't notice, because most people only saw the success. They didn't see the empty penthouse at night, the way he stared out over the city skyline, sipping $1,000 whiskey that didn't even taste like anything anymore. They didn't hear the silence after the meetings ended, when his phone stopped buzzing and the world he built around himself felt more like a fortress than a home. And maybe that's why Ava hit him so hard, because she came from a world that couldn't care less about apps, stocks, or mergers. She stood under the burning sun with a sign and a smile. No phone, no followers, just water in her hands and something in her eyes that made him feel more exposed than he'd ever been. What Cole didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that Ava had been watching him for weeks. Not in a creepy or obsessive way, but with purpose. She knew where he'd be when he passed by, what kind of car he drove, what kind of coffee he sipped at exactly 7:43 a.m. from that organic cafe 2 blocks from his main office. She wasn't stalking him. She was studying him, tracking him, waiting for the right moment. Because this wasn't about chance. This was about history. Something had happened years ago, something Cole had forgotten or maybe chosen to bury, something that changed Ava's life forever. And now, whether he realized it or not, she was back in his world, right on his path, and this time, she had no intention of letting him walk away unchanged. Every bottle of water she handed out was more than just hydration. It was part of a puzzle, part of a plan. A message wrapped in simplicity. And the part that made it all so chilling? She never once asked for anything. Not even a thank you. She just gave. And for a man like Cole, used to being pitched, praised, and pursued for his wealth, her silence was deafening. Meanwhile, back inside Cole's empire, Matthews Technologies, his executive team was on edge. There were whispers about his recent behavior, missed calls, late arrivals, uncharacteristic pauses during strategy meetings. The man who once micromanaged every detail was now drifting. His assistant, Jenna, tried to brush it off, but even she felt the shift. Cole was distracted. Something or someone had gotten into his head. He spent more time staring out of windows than into spreadsheets. One morning, he canceled an entire investor meeting just to walk through the street where he'd seen Ava. He told no one. No entourage, no driver. Just Cole in jeans and a hoodie, trying to blend in, looking for a girl most people didn't even notice. What he didn't know was that someone else was watching him now. Someone who had noticed the pattern, the detour from his normal routine. And they didn't like it. Because Cole's company wasn't just a tech firm, it was the centerpiece of a larger, hidden game. A game that Ava's presence had just disrupted in a way no one saw coming. Across town, in a community center that barely kept its lights on, Ava volunteered in the evenings under a different name. To the kids and families there, she was just Miss V, the girl who brought snacks and listened more than she spoke. But even there, pieces of her story began to slip out. Some said she used to be a straight-A student with a scholarship to a prestigious college. Others whispered she'd vanished after something tragic happened to her family. No one knew for sure, and Ava never confirmed or denied anything. She just smiled, passed out water bottles with inspirational quotes taped to them, and disappeared before anyone could ask too many questions. But one night, an older woman named Lita, a retired teacher who ran the community kitchen, caught Ava staring at a local news broadcast featuring Cole Matthews receiving yet another award. "You know him?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. Ava didn't answer. She just nodded slowly, then turned the volume down and said softly, "He used to know someone I loved." And that was it. No further explanation. But it was enough to make Lita watch her a little closer from then on. Back in Cole's world, things were unraveling faster than he could control. He started seeing Ava everywhere, or maybe he was just hoping to. On billboards, in crowds, in reflections. Her voice echoed in his memory. That one sentence she said to him before he drove away still etched into his mind. "You don't remember me, but I remember everything." It haunted him, because for the life of him, he couldn't figure out what she meant. He went through his past like an FBI file, trying to trace every face, every girl, every deal, every mistake. Nothing. But the feeling wouldn't leave him. Something about her. Her presence, her calmness, her conviction. It broke through the walls he'd spent a lifetime building. He started dreaming about her. Dreams that didn't make sense. A girl crying at a hospital. A younger version of himself holding a backpack. A fire. A song. The images didn't match, but they stirred something primal, something unresolved. And the more he ignored it, the more intense the dreams became. Meanwhile, Ava's mission was entering its final stage. She had one more move to make, one that involved getting closer to Cole than ever before. But it wouldn't be easy. Not with the layers of protection around him. Not with his team growing suspicious. Not with the ghost of her past catching up to her faster than she anticipated. And as she prepared for her next step, someone from Cole's company began investigating her. A young security analyst named Marcus stumbled upon surveillance footage showing Cole talking to her. It wasn't in his job description to look into it, but curiosity got the better of him. The girl didn't show up in any of the usual databases. No credit history. No tax records. No address. Just a partial name and a blurry ID photo from a shelter intake 4 months ago. Marcus flagged it. Then, oddly, he was told to delete the report and forget he ever saw it. No explanation. Just a warning. Leave it alone. That's when Marcus realized this wasn't just some girl off the street. There was something bigger going on. Something connected to the CEO himself. And now, he had a choice: stay silent or dig deeper and risk everything.
He chose to dig.
And what he found sent chills down his spine. Ava wasn't just connected to Cole's past. She was connected to a scandal buried so deep it had been scrubbed from public record. A tragedy involving a company Cole had once invested in. A decision he made during his early rise to power. A decision that led to loss, pain, and something much darker than bad press. And at the center of it all was Ava's family. But Marcus wasn't the only one getting closer to the truth. Cole himself finally made a decision. He was done playing it safe. He wanted answers. Real ones. And the only way to get them was to go back to the street corner, look Ava in the eye, and ask the one question he'd been avoiding. Who are you really? What he didn't know was that Ava was already waiting for him, not with answers, but with a choice. A test. One that would force him to confront the darkest part of his past and decide whether redemption was something you could earn or something you had to lose everything to deserve. And just when you think the story couldn't twist any further, something else happens. Someone close to Cole, someone he trusted, turns on him. The betrayal comes quietly, but the impact is massive. Deals fall through. Leaks hit the press. Headlines explode. And in the middle of it all, Ava vanishes again. No trace. No clue. Just gone. And this time, Cole can't shake the feeling that she didn't just walk away, she was taken. The news hit Cole like a sucker punch he never saw coming. 1 minute, he was staring out his office window, still haunted by the memory of Ava's disappearing act, and the next his phone exploded with alerts, push notifications, texts, urgent emails with subject lines in all caps. Data breach. CEO targeted in corporate leak. Investigation launched. Within hours, the media swarmed his headquarters like vultures, and his image, once squeaky clean and untouchable, started to unravel on every platform from Twitter to TikTok. Clips of Cole walking alone on the street, visibly shaken, were trending under hashtags like #OhExposed and #WhatIsHeHiding. But the real twist wasn't just the timing. It was what the leaks contained. Hidden in the files were records from over a decade ago, sealed settlements, quiet payouts, suppressed lawsuits, all linked to a biotech firm that Cole had silently backed in his early startup days. A firm that went under after a mysterious factory fire left 3 people dead. One of them, Ava's father. The twist hit the internet hard. Suddenly, Ava wasn't just a random girl on the street. She became the face of a growing online movement. Amateur investigators and true crime YouTubers began piecing together her story. Reaction videos exploded in popularity. Comment sections filled with speculation, support, outrage. Is she seeking justice? Did she plan this all along? Why is Cole so shaken? People were obsessed, dissecting every frame of old footage like it was an episode of a Netflix docuseries. But even as the world debated the truth, Cole was spiraling in silence, feeling the walls close in. His legal team urged him to deny everything. His board demanded he step down. Investors began pulling out. But Cole didn't care about any of that. Not really, because none of it compared to the question that now burned in his chest. Did I destroy someone's life without ever knowing it? Behind the scenes, Marcus, the young analyst who first dug into Ava's digital shadow, had gone completely off the radar. He'd been threatened, warned, then silenced with a promotion that moved him to an overseas office that didn't actually exist. But before he vanished, he sent Cole one final encrypted message. It was a file. A single image. Grainy, but unmistakable. It was Ava, younger, scared, and clutching a man's hand as flames lit up the background. The timestamp matched the night of the biotech fire. And the man whose hand she held? Cole. Or at least someone who looked eerily like him. That was the moment everything turned upside down. Because if that photo was real, it meant Cole wasn't just a passive investor. He had been there. He'd witnessed something. Maybe even done something. And his memory or his guilt had blocked it out for all these years. He didn't know what scared him more, the possibility that he was innocent or that he wasn't. Meanwhile, Ava had gone completely underground. Every trace of her presence vanished. No phone, no social media, no community center visits. But what no one knew was that she hadn't run. She had gone deeper. She had a contact inside Matthews Technologies, someone close to Cole who had access to restricted archives. And together, they were uncovering files even Cole didn't know existed. Files that revealed a shadow partnership between Matthews Tech and a now-defunct medical research group known as Synapse Corps. The documents were laced with redactions, shell company names, encrypted logs, but Ava knew what she was looking for. Her father hadn't just worked at the factory. He'd been part of a project that Synapse Corps funded, human neuromapping. A secret pilot experiment meant to explore memory suppression, neural modification, science that bordered on illegal. And the project's main investor? Matthews, under a dummy account. Cole Matthews. Whether he remembered or not, he'd funded the very program that ruined her life. Back in Cole's world, the storm was getting worse. Protests began forming outside his building. Former employees were speaking out. Whistleblower videos started popping up, each claiming Cole had known more than he let on. But the biggest shock came when someone from inside his own executive team, Jenna, his most trusted assistant, leaked her resignation letter. And in it, she revealed something explosive. She had found medical documents in Cole's private safe detailing neurological damage sustained from an incident 15 years ago. An incident that aligned with the date of the biotech fire. In her letter, she claimed that Cole had suffered partial memory loss after the incident and that his doctors had advised him to suppress emotional triggers. That's when the puzzle started coming together. Cole hadn't just forgotten Ava's father. He'd forgotten Ava herself. In a flashback buried deep in Cole's mind, one that began surfacing like fragments of a dream, a younger version of Ava appeared, crying in a hospital hallway, her hair tangled, her clothes covered in soot. She had looked up at him with those same eyes and said the exact same words she spoke the day they met on the street. "You don't remember me, but I remember everything." It wasn't a coincidence. It was a reckoning. And now, with his public image destroyed and his past dragging itself out of the ashes, Cole made a choice he'd never made before. He walked away from his company. No press release. No staged announcement. He simply disappeared, determined to find the truth for himself. Not for the board, not for damage control, but for Ava. And maybe for the boy he used to be. At the same time, a new character emerged from the shadows, a man known only as Dr. Keene, the lead researcher from Synapse Corps who had gone into hiding after the fire. He resurfaced in a video uploaded anonymously to YouTube, claiming that the entire project had been approved by a silent partner from Silicon Valley. He never said Cole's name directly, but the evidence he held, original contracts, photographs, lab footage, all pointed in one direction. The video went viral overnight. #SynapseTruth trended across platforms. Millions of views, thousands of duets, endless commentary. And once again, the question shifted from who is Ava to who is Cole before the memory loss. Because if his brain had been tampered with, if someone had altered his past, then maybe he wasn't just a villain. Maybe he was a victim, too. Now, with the entire world watching, two people were on a collision course. One seeking closure, the other chasing redemption. But someone else was pulling strings behind the scenes, someone with a lot to lose if the truth ever came out. Surveillance footage of Ava's last known location revealed a black SUV with a fake license plate. Its registered owner? A security firm that had once been hired by Matthews Tech during its most controversial acquisition. The implication was clear. Someone didn't want Ava alive long enough to expose what she knew. And that meant Cole wasn't just searching for her, he was racing to save her. But he might already be too late. Cole hadn't slept in days, and the road stretched endlessly beneath the wheels of the rental car he'd taken from a nameless garage off the Los Angeles freeway. The GPS led him deeper into the desert, far beyond cell towers and media noise. A few blurry photos posted to Reddit had surfaced of Ava, captured near an abandoned research site in Mojave, the last known Synapse core facility, shuttered years ago but still fenced off and heavily guarded. Online sleuths had dropped coordinates, and now Cole clutched a printed screenshot like a lifeline, the corners damp from sweat. He wasn't sure what he'd find, whether Ava was there willingly or held against her will, but one thing was clear. This place held the key to everything. To her pain, to his past, and to the fire that had started it all. As he crossed through the wired gate under a blood-orange sky, the air thickened with silence, the kind that wraps around your ribs and makes every breath feel stolen. Inside the crumbling facility, darkness swallowed the hallways. Paint peeled from the walls. Graffiti covered medical diagrams. The silence was eerie, but not dead. There were faint sounds, electricity humming behind walls, soft footsteps in the distance. Cole pressed forward, flashlight in hand, heart pounding as memories teased the edge of his mind. Suddenly, a soft voice echoed down the corridor. "You finally came." It was her. Ava stepped out from the shadows, not scared, not angry, just tired. Her face was different now, sharper, older. Not the girl on the street selling bottled water. Not the child from the fire. She was something else entirely. And beside her stood a man with pale eyes and shaking hands, Dr. Keene. He looked like a ghost dragged from the past. "You're the final piece," Keene said, voice cracking. "We needed you here to remember." In that moment, everything changed. Ava didn't just want revenge. She wanted truth. Dr. Keene revealed that the night of the fire, Cole had arrived to confront the investors. He'd discovered unauthorized human trials, memory suppression tested on factory workers without consent, including Ava's father. Cole had threatened to expose everything. But someone else had set the fire before he could act, and Cole had barely escaped the explosion. The trauma, paired with the experimental tech used to erase whistleblowers' memories, had left him fractured, alive but hollow. Ava had seen him that night. She remembered everything, but no one believed her. She spent her life trying to rebuild the pieces, disguised in plain sight, waiting for him to look her in the eye and see not a stranger, but the little girl whose world he once tried to save. Just as Cole began to process the truth, sirens blared outside the compound. Black SUVs pulled up. Armed men flooded the property. Mercenaries hired not by Cole, but by his former board members who feared what he might discover and leak. The same men who had orchestrated the cover-up 15 years ago now wanted all loose ends tied. A voice shouted, "Take them alive if you can, dead if you must." Gunfire erupted. Cole grabbed Ava's hand, and together they ran, weaving through the skeletal remains of a forgotten science. Dr. Keene stayed behind, locking the final gate, giving them time to escape. As Cole and Ava burst into daylight through a rear exit, an explosion rocked the compound. Keene was gone, taking with him the last physical proof, but also ensuring the truth now lived in two people who could no longer be silenced. Weeks passed. The story broke in pieces, leaked online by anonymous sources, compiled and amplified by digital warriors who had followed the breadcrumbs. #Synapse cover-up exploded across YouTube and X. TikTok creators launched mini docuseries. Ava, once invisible, became the voice of a generation demanding transparency. Cole, stripped of corporate power, turned whistleblower. He sat down for a viral interview, raw, unfiltered, and real. He didn't blame anyone but himself. "I forgot what mattered," he said, "until the one person I failed most forced me to remember." The interview trended worldwide. Public opinion shifted. Lawsuits followed. Politicians called for new regulations on corporate ethics and memory technology. Matthews Tech was dissolved. But that wasn't the twist that shook the world. The real twist came when a second video surfaced, uploaded from Dr. Keen's encrypted drive. In it, he confessed to creating an emergency protocol, a safeguard buried deep inside Cole's neural architecture. A fail-safe memory, one that had been triggered by Ava's voice, by her specific phrasing the first day they met. "You don't remember me, but I remember everything." It was a phrase she'd been coached to say, not by vengeance, but by design. Her father, knowing he might not survive, had recorded that sentence into the failsafe to ensure Cole's awakening could only happen through the very person he failed. Ava had unknowingly been the key all along, her presence the final trigger to unlock everything hidden. As the dust settled, Ava and Cole stood together at the site where it all began, an empty lot where the factory once stood. Cole placed a weathered photo of Ava's father on the ground, next to a single white lily. "I couldn't save him," Cole whispered, "but I'll protect what he loved most." Ava didn't say anything. She just looked at the sky, where the morning sun was burning through the clouds, and for the first time in years, she let herself cry. Not for what was lost, but for what was finally found. And as the world watched from behind screens, from smartphones and comment threads, one truth rang louder than any algorithm. Even the most powerful man can forget what makes him human until a girl selling water in the street reminds him what it means to truly feel. If you watched until the end, now you know the answer that brought you here. But here's the real question. How many people around you have forgotten their truth, and how far would you go to help them remember?